The undefeated and the undisputed, Chael Sonnen. I have a question. Which UFC champion do you think had the hardest road to get their belt? Thank you.
Oh, the road to the hardest. You're the second person to bring that up. There was a talk going around social media a week ago, and it was who is the greatest fighter to never be champion? And that was an interesting one because that's also open for interpretation. Like, by example, the best fighter to never even be given an opportunity to fight for the championship, I would have to put as Jacare. But Damian Maia went on quite a run too. I'm well aware that Damian got a couple of title shots, but it looked as though he should have had another one. Matt Brown won 7 in a row, and it's possible he won 8. Leon Edwards is currently sitting on 8. Just by example, some of the guys that never even got the opportunity. So then you have to look at also the guys that did get the opportunity and came the closest but didn't leave with it, and I think that's very obviously Gustafsson. 2 different nights, Gus could have been world champion. 2 different nights. The fight with JJ the first time, the fight with DC, which was a split decision, by the way. One judge thought that he did win. He's got to be the closest. But your question's a little different, which is who had the hardest path? And I think you are going to be left with nothing more than an argument there, right? I mean, I would have to even go back to the guys, the original guys, the Hoist Gracies of the world that had to do the tournament and go through 3 guys in one night when there was not even a weigh-in. It was all open class, and you're giving up 50 pounds 3 different times in one evening. That sounds pretty hard. I mean, that sounds like what you're asking me. That sounds pretty hard. Or you could look at somebody like Matt Serra, who to get the opportunity had to go through the Ultimate Fighter. That is the toughest tournament in all of sports. And the Ultimate Fighter will change you. It will absolutely change you. First, I went through it twice as a coach, but the first time I went through it, Vinny was there. And Vinny was our jiu-jitsu coach, but he was a participant through the Ultimate Fighter himself. So he had that experience. And I remember he told me this on the very first day. And he said, Chael, I follow this so closely and I lived through it. I'm telling you now, whoever you go to bed tonight, this was on our very first day, whoever you go to bed tonight, thinking is the best guys, all the way down to the worst guy, that is going to flip. Because it becomes a mental game. It becomes very mentally draining. And the guys in the house are also having an alpha off right now, and they are going to identify who the strongest in the herd is, and then they're going to put plans around him. That guy who's the strong is not going to be in a few weeks. Because remember when he told me that? Because I remember thinking, you're wrong. That's a weird thing you're telling me, Vinny. 30 days later, when the process is done, Vinny was spot on. Exactly what he described. Now, I offer that for you because Sarah had to hang on, get through 3 guys, including Shoney Carter, who, not for nothing, but had beaten Matt before. Remember that spinning back fist? So then when they rematch on the Ultimate Fighter, Shoney hits him with that back fist again. I mean, that's a hard thing when you got to go through somebody who's already beat you. It just is. Not to mention everybody else. Oh, and your only reward for doing that is you're going to get locked in a cage with the greatest to have ever done it. Oh, and should I mention you're going to have to go into enemy territory to do it. So I think that when you look at it like that, you have to consider Matt Serra. I would make the same argument for Michael Bisping. I mean, almost identical. You go look at who Bisping beat, but you also have to look at the fact that he won the Ultimate Fighter. And one thing Bisping never gets credit for because people forget it, is he won the Ultimate Fighter at 205 pounds. The only fight he lost at 205 pounds was to Rashad Evans, who went on to be a world champion as a current Hall of Famer. And by the way, that was a split decision. One judge thought Bisping won. That was at 205. Then he goes down to 85. Even the night where he was given his opportunity, he was a last-minute replacement against Luke Rockhold, who had already beaten him before. He took the fight on 8 days' notice. I mean, that sounds really hard. That's your question. Who had the hardest road? You could keep this game going, but I feel what I just laid out for you qualifies as hard.